Hello YouTube! Welcome back to my channel. My name's Tina and I make videos every single week on lifestyle, DIY, and right now I'm doing lots of videos on my wedding series. First, I want to start off this video by saying thank you guys so much for 3,000 subscribers. This channel is growing so much and I just am so happy and so lucky to have you guys as part of this journey. I really hope you guys are enjoying the videos that I'm putting out right now and I can't wait to make more. I just came up with a whole new list of things that I could do for my wedding series, so stay tuned for that. But for today's video, I'm talking all about planning a cultural wedding and more specifically, how I survived my Vietnamese wedding and tea ceremony. I actually had someone reach out to me on Instagram and she is going through the same thing that I was going through when I was planning my Vietnamese wedding. And for some background information on me, I'm Vietnamese and I am the oldest daughter of 3. I am the first to get married and my parents are social butterflies, so this wedding was definitely a big deal. It was definitely a lot of pressure being their firstborn, like not just in life, but also as part of this wedding. And I feel like a lot of you guys, if you come from a cultural background that is similar to mine, you probably know what I'm talking about. But I just wanted to share my experience and give you guys some tips if you're in the same boat as me. So depending on your cultural background, obviously your wedding traditions are going to look a lot different than what mine looks like. But I'm pretty sure that a lot of the things that I'm going to touch today are things that you might have already experienced or will experience, and I just wanted to give some of my tips and some pointers and how you can stay sane. So when you're planning a cultural wedding, more likely than not you're having your relatives or your parents help you plan out, because more likely than not you're not as familiar with the traditions, and definitely Google helps out a lot. But there's always going to be a different variation of what you read online versus what your family chooses to do with your traditions. So this first tip is really important, and that is to keep an open mind. Especially if you're planning your wedding with your parents, you're not going to see eye to eye on every single thing. So with that, just keep an open mind and know that not every wedding is going to be perfect. I'm sure you're going to run into some speed bumps along the way, but there are some things that you can do to prevent going full bridezilla. And I think one of the most important things is, if you're planning with your parents, make sure that you guys kind of set some expectations and some roles and responsibilities. So being the first generation born to immigrant parents, there's obviously going to be some miscommunications and language barriers. So I think the best thing to do is just keep a running document of everything. I feel like I was always talking to my mom and like checking in with her, telling her exactly what I was doing and seeing what she was doing. And really the thing that helped the most was just like putting a document all together to make sure that you're keeping track of everything, because in passing and in conversation it gets really difficult to really know exactly what you guys are both doing on your ends. So definitely put together a document that lays out clearly what you're doing and what they're doing. When it came to my wedding, I was in charge of my own budgets, my own decor, all that good stuff, but then my parents were in charge of the tea ceremony, making sure that everyone knew their roles there. So having some of those ground rules already established made it easier for us to communicate and make sure that we weren't stepping on each other's toes when it came down to all the things that we had to do for the wedding. So when it comes to cultural weddings, I think another big aspect is really the clothing and the traditional attire that you're going to wear for that day. And that might be hard for you to source locally, especially if you don't live in a community with a lot of people who are in the same ethnic background as you. Luckily, I live in the Chicagoland area, so there definitely is a big Vietnamese community here. And even though there's a strong community here, I still feel like it's hard to get your hands on a traditional áo dài, which is what the men and women wear for their weddings. So funny story about this is that I actually picked out my traditional Vietnamese wedding dress like 3 years before I even got engaged. And it's kind of funny because my mom honestly knows best, and probably everyone's mom knows best, but we were in Vietnam and we were in a fabric store and my mom basically saw one that was red, which is our traditional colors for good luck. She saw it and then she picked it out and she said, "Tina, you really should get one made because you never know when it's gonna happen." And I was just kind of like, I don't think I really need one right now. Like, we're probably not gonna get married soon and I'll probably get it made the next time I come. But lo and behold, I got it done. I got all my measurements and I got it made in Vietnam, and I haven't been back since, so it was really lucky that I did it when I did it. And not to mention, for my bridesmaids and my groomsmen and even my husband's outfit, my mom happened to be in Vietnam the same year that we were getting married, so she was able to go get all the measurements for my bridesmaids and my groomsmen to get our traditional outfits made in Vietnam. So I'm very, very thankful for that, and I feel so lucky that we were able to get stuff from Vietnam. So I'm really thankful for my mom for getting all of that done, but the one thing that didn't go according to plan was actually my headpiece. I had sent her a design that I really liked online, and then it came and it did not look anything like what I thought it was going to look like, so I had to DIY it. I had to get creative and go to Hobby Lobby, find a whole bunch of little decorative items and glue it onto my headpiece, and it honestly turned out better than I thought it would. So I'm really happy that I actually got to DIY a part of my traditional outfit. Really went from 0 to 100 just from going to Hobby Lobby and hot glue gunning a bunch of stuff on it. But people who don't have that connection, it's not going to be as easy. So some tips that I would say is to reach out to people in your community and see where they have gone to get their items. You can always ask relatives that have gotten married recently, or you can even go onto Instagram and reach out to people. Complete strangers have actually reached out to me before on Instagram asking me where I've gotten my traditional outfits from, and honestly, I don't think that's weird at all. When you're planning a wedding, you just have so many questions, and people who have been in that position really do want to help you as well. So if you see someone with something you really, really like, just reach out to them, DM them, and see if they will answer. More likely than not, they will help you out. So when it comes to sourcing clothes, use all the resources that you can to get the job done. So this next thing that I want to talk about is probably the #1 most important thing at your wedding, and that is going to be the food and alcohol. Well, I guess you and your partner are #1, but like this is probably #1 to all your guests. So for my reception, I knew I wanted it to be American style with American style food, which I'm honestly surprised that my parents were okay with, because they really wanted us to get catering for like Chinese or Vietnamese food. But we ended up doing Vietnamese food for the tea ceremony, and I feel like that's one of the biggest things here, is just kind of compromising and meeting in the middle when it comes to some of these traditions. So if you can't agree 100% to one thing, make sure that you try to weave it in somewhere else. So even though I did American food for my reception, I made sure that there was going to be hot peppers at every single table, because Viet people like their spice, and also that there was a lot of fruit at our dessert table, because for some reason Viet people don't like things that are super sweet, so we wanted to accommodate and make sure that there was a lot of fruit. And I think the next thing that is equally as important as your food is your drinks. So make sure that you're telling your venue, your caterer, whoever is supplying the alcohol, to make sure that you stock up on whatever the preferred alcohol choice is for your cultural group or community. I don't know how to word this, but basically I made sure that our venue was well stocked on Heineken and Hennessy. Those two drinks are really a staple in Vietnamese culture. I feel like those are the things that people are always drinking at parties and celebrations. So I made sure that my venue had a lot of Heineken on deck. And if you know what your preferred drink is within your ethnic background, make sure that you have a lot of that available. Two things that you might want to consider for your cultural wedding is having a translator or a guide of some sort, like a physical booklet. But I just feel like those two things will really be helpful. So during my tea ceremony, I had an MC. He didn't have a mic or anything. We had someone there who was going to speak both in English and in Vietnamese. Because the majority of the ceremony was going to be in Vietnamese, I wanted to make sure that my guests who obviously don't know Vietnamese, like the majority of my wedding party, really understood what was going on. So in my case, there's a lot of processions and gifts being given, so it does get kind of confusing if you're not familiar with it. So just providing your guests with kind of a guide and an understanding of what exactly is going on is just going to make them even more appreciative of being a guest and witnessing the ceremony. One great way to incorporate this is having it on your invitation or even on your wedding website, kind of explaining what is about to happen at the ceremony. And the last tip I want to give you guys is to really just make the ceremony your own and break tradition if there are parts of it that aren't important to you or your family. So for example, usually a tea ceremony takes place at the groom's house, but for my family, we ended up just doing it at my parents' house because it was just gonna save us a lot more time, and it worked out perfectly fine. I also made the ceremony my own by requesting that one of the gifts in the boxes was egg tarts. So I was really happy to have one of my favorite desserts at the tea ceremony. So any chance that you can incorporate some of your favorite things or personality into these traditional ceremonies, I would highly encourage you guys to do it. And just know that at the end of the day, it is your wedding, so do whatever you want. I honestly wish you guys the best of luck because honestly, it is a very stressful time, not only planning out your reception, but also a whole different aspect of your wedding. There are so many beautiful wedding traditions out there, so I really would love to hear about what you're planning to incorporate into your wedding. And if you have any tips of your own, feel free to leave it in the comment section down below. You never know who might read it and who you might help. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram. It's probably the easiest way to get a hold of me if you guys have any questions, and I'm posting on there every single day. So go ahead, click the follow button, and that's it. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!